Okay, ask me how old I am. Ask me how old I am. Thank you for asking. I'm 29. Hi, I'm Mary Jane, and I am 29. I'm very happy to say so because in a couple of days this is not gonna be true anymore. If you're watching this video on the 19th of April 2020, the day when I'm releasing it, that's my last day in my 20s, because on the 20th of April 2020, I'm gonna be 30. Yes, people, I'm gonna be 30. If you're watching this video and you are 21, you're not gonna think, oh, she's 29, almost 30, so old, I'm never gonna arrive there. You're gonna arrive there too. I was 21 literally last week. Now, jokes aside, I wanted to make a video like this just because in my early 20s, I was watching these videos of other YouTubers giving advice to people in their 20s, and I honestly found them really useful. Like, I literally followed some of those advices, and those are the ones that made me the person that I am today. I guess my 30s and my 40s and my hopefully 50s and so on are gonna be very important and crucial phases of my life, but for now I can say that my 20s absolutely were. And obviously each person's life is highly influenced by the context, the environment the person lives in. So by your family, your culture, where you live, what kind of education you got, all these kind of things. So obviously I am Italian, European. I grew up in a very traditional family with two parents, two other siblings, older siblings. So these things that I'm gonna say are related to my situation. Keep in mind that not everything in my life is relatable to your life. You always have to keep in account that you are in a different context. If someone asks me what's the best advice you could give to a person in his 20s, I know 100% what it is. And it is to try to know yourself as much as you can. Probably this is a little bit unoriginal since I studied philosophy in university, and this is exactly what Socrates, one of the first philosophers in the history of the Western world, kept saying. Know yourself, gnothe seauton. And I first started studying Socrates when I was 16 in school, but it took me a few years to really understand the power of his message. Especially in these past few years, I came to realize that all the most important things in my life come down to getting to know myself better and better every day. And I do realize that this is not a very concrete advice because it's very difficult for you probably to understand what it means, as it was for me to understand what it meant. And it is also for me difficult to explain it now, honestly. But what I can advise you is to take any chance possible to get to know yourself better. Meaning, don't be constantly distracted, don't be constantly entertained, because those are moments where you go outside of yourself. The moments where you are really with yourself and you get to know yourself are those moments where you are bored, when you are uncomfortable, when you are in pain, when you are trying to overcome difficulties. So when you find yourself in one of these situations, don't try to escape them. Try to face them directly, because those are essential for you to know yourself. If you're constantly hanging out with your friends, or if you're constantly staying in your room watching Netflix or stupid YouTube videos, that's something that takes your mind out of your mind somehow, right? It gets you distracted, and that's good in some occasions, but always remember to put yourself in uncomfortable situation, boring situation, painful situation, and things like that. By knowing yourself in your early 20s, you will realize that following trends, for example, just for the sake of following them, is the stupidest thing ever. It is very tempting because we feel insecure, we feel like we want to be accepted by other pals, but in reality, following trends kind of unconsciously is very damaging. So I'm not saying don't wear your sweater cropped because it's a trend. I'm just saying don't think that going around with a sweater that is not cropped is not cool. And if you like the trend, just go and crop your sweaters. That's not the point. The point is to be aware of the why, the reason why you're doing something, you're behaving in a certain way rather than another. The very first thing I would say to any person in their 20s is it's okay if you don't know shit about what you're doing with your life. And here, for example, it's very important to not compare yourself with others, but compare yourself to yourself rather, because every person is in a different situation. So some people might be relatable to you, but some others might not. I used to have people in my class in high school who knew that they wanted to become something like a doctor and engineer and stuff like that. And I would envy them so much. And at the same time, they made me feel like I was inadequate because I had no idea what I wanted to do in my life. And during university too, I felt like everyone else in my course knew already what they wanted to do, and I had no idea. But you know what? That's okay. Those people who actually have an idea of what to do with their lives are the exception. They are not the rule. There are very, very little amount of people, believe me. The reality is that many people are faking to know what they want, and many others are just like you. They just don't know what to do with their lives. You're going to figure it out at some point later in the future, but if you're in your 20s, that's just a very confusing decade, and I just suggest you to have fun and to not think too much about it. Which brings me to my second point. Don't feel the pressure to settle and experiment instead. Experimentation is such a central concept in the 20s, in my opinion. I think in your 20s, what you're supposed to do with your life is to experiment. That's it. My advice would be to try to do as many things as you possibly can do without damaging yourself. So I'm talking about drugs. I hope we all know which drugs are safe to try and which ones come with the risk of permanently damaging parts of your brain or of your body. In general, I encourage you to try as many different things as possible. If you feel like you got in the wrong faculty in university, please try something else. Don't get stuck with it. Even if you have done already 2 years of it, it doesn't matter. Change it. Try another one. Same with relationships. If you get together with someone and you're not 100% happy, just get out of that relationship. Find another one. Or better, stay single. Group of friends, same. If you get tired of them, change it. I could really go on and apply this advice to anything in the life. I think as far as you are like physically safe, like medically safe, you should experiment whatever you can think of. And I'm really grateful that at 21 I had the possibility to get out of a relationship that was tying me up for 6 years at that point. And I wasn't the one who had the courage to break up. He did, and completely broke me into pieces. But I'm super grateful that that happened because it gave me the possibility to experiment with many other things. And often in our 20s, especially right after university, we feel the pressure to settle down. And this is either from your parents, from, I don't know, your relatives, from the society, or if you don't feel that kind of pressure, like I wasn't feeling it, even if they were kind of making me pressure, but I decided to not get influenced by that. But I was still feeling the pressures from my peers. Because after graduating, I kept seeing all my philosophy fellows who had jobs or had research contracts in the university or who were doing something, with their lives, who were settling down. And honestly, after university, I spent probably even more than 1 year doing literally nothing. After a few months, I started working as a waitress, as a hostess, stuff like that, but I wasn't really doing nothing. And I'm glad I didn't do anything because that's a time that you need to kind of figure out what direction to move in. Which I'm not saying figuring out what to do with your life because that comes so much after that. I'm just saying in which one of the million directions that we have the chance to take today, it would be better for you to move. And if someone told you that at 27 you are supposed to have a stable job with a good income, probably a nice partner, live by yourself in a house that you bought or you are renting and all this stuff, just answer them, fuck you! You're not supposed to do all these things. That's what our parents were supposed to do. Times have changed. I remember in elementary school, so we might have been 9 years old, we used to play this game where it was a quiz or something, I don't even remember, but I remember that the start of the game was this question: at what age are you going to get married? And I clearly remember that my age was 21. I thought that I would have gotten married at 21 years old, and my age was one of the oldest ones in my group of little friends in elementary school. Now I'm 29, and how crazy is that? So going back to the importance of experimentation, I'm arriving to my third point. I think your mission in your 20s in general is to understand what are your passions. I know this is not really new. We've heard people telling us that we should do that since we were in middle school probably. Understand what you like, understand what subject you prefer, understand what you are good at and stuff like that. And again, I was feeling the pressure to figure that out as well so that I could, pick a job from the jobs that society makes you pick that would pair with my passion, abilities and stuff like that. But now that I think that I figure out what I really want to do, at least for the next 10 years, I'm telling you, it's not easy. Understanding what your passions are is something so hard, so difficult, so confusing. I think you should keep in mind that this is a mission that you have in your 20s, but it's gonna take years. It's probably going to take the whole decade. So don't be stressed if you are confused about that. And my last 2 points are regarding relationships, because do I really need to say it? Relationships are so important in everyone's life, but not every relationship is as important as the ones that I'm gonna mention now. First of all, your parents. And my advice regarding parents is learn to communicate with them as much as you can. And if it's hard, never give up. The point is that your parents are probably the most important people that you have in your life. Obviously, context, I have parents and they never abandon me, so I'm not talking for everyone now, obviously. But if you have parents, please realize how lucky you are. Your parents are basically the most important people in your life. They are literally the people who gave you life, and you are the most important person for them. That is 100% sure. So unless they have some exceptional reason for not being trustful, and I know there are many cases like this. Again, I feel extremely grateful to have parents that are mentally healthy, have no addiction or anything. Be aware of the importance of them in your life, because when we finish high school, we go to university, and maybe we tend to forget about our parents because it's the first moment in our life where we get some of that autonomy and independence from them, so we are super excited about it. You are most likely going to encounter frictions with them. You're most likely gonna start to develop your own ideas that are in conflict with everything that they have taught to you in your life, and that is okay, and they should understand it as well. But it is not completely their job to understand it. It is also your job as a son or a daughter to help they understand your new and original point of view. So that's why I said learn how to communicate with them. In the end, everything comes down to good communication. Really, if you are a good communicator in this war, you can do literally anything. I surely picked a path in my life that was not the one that my parents would have chosen for me, and I still have a hard time letting them understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. There surely has been frictions and conflict among us in the past years, and there still are, but you know what? At least I was able to communicate to them well enough my reasons so that they could at least accept my choices, for as weird for them as they could sound. And I think that's the most important thing of all. Sometimes through my channel I have young people writing me emails because they want to do something in their life which is completely different to what their parents want for them, or they are afraid of the judgment of their family and stuff like this. And I find that these kind of persons end up belonging to either one of these two groups. They're either very submissive, and because they're afraid of the judgment of their family, of their parents, of everyone, they kind of understood that they want to do something in their life, but then they are so afraid of the judgment of other people that they just give up doing it. Or they are in the second group, which are those ones who are in conflict with their parents and they want to just escape home if they are teenagers, or they would like to, I don't know, don't talk with their parents anymore, or anyway, break their relationship in order to avoid this judgment that they get from their parents. And in both cases, I always try to balance things out, because I think that your parents don't own you and you shouldn't be allowing anyone to not do the things that you would like to do if they're not damaging anyone else, of course. So even if your parents have a different opinion of what you should do with your life, you should not allow that to make the decisions for you. But at the same time, I think that it's absolutely fundamental that you don't break the relationship with your parents. And to be completely honest with you, I've been very close to do that several times in my life, both during my teenage and during my 20s. I was a quite rebel kind of daughter. The idea of escaping home or insulting somehow my parents was very frequent in my mind, unfortunately. And I'm pretty sure that now at 29 years old, I'm pretty much over that phase. I definitely overcame those feelings, but I'm so grateful that I always kept a very good relationship with my parents as well. I never stopped the communications. That's the most important thing, because all those breakups in relationships start when you stop communicating, or you stop communicating transparently. So never give up on communicating with your parents. Never. Second point about relationships: choose one true friend among those people who have known you for a very long time. I met so many people during university, during my Erasmus, then when I moved away, now when I couchsurf. If you're social enough, your 20s are gonna be an explosion of new relationships, which is great. But what I'm trying to tell you now is that as much connection you can feel with a person that you just met or that you met in university is never gonna be as deep as the connection that you have with a person that you've been knowing since when you were a kid. And I'm very, very lucky in my life because I have my best friend who has been there. We met in elementary school and we really became best friends in second or third class. So I would say at 8 years old. And we have never stopped to be best friends during these past 22 years this year. And I've never had a doubt that she is my best friend, that's it. But at the same time, I met many people during my life with whom I felt such a huge connection, and I thought, wow, this person could be my next second best friend, I would say. But you know what? After either a few weeks, a few months, or a few years, I've always came to realize that the people that are gonna understand you better, deeper, are the ones you grew up with. I personally rediscovered in this past, seriously, 2-3 years, some people that I used to go to elementary school with. Elementary school! And we haven't been hanging out together for 15 to 20 years. I rediscovered them. We started hanging out together again. And it just feels so deep when I met up with these people that I have other friends that I've been hearing from since 5 years constantly. I don't feel the same depth in the connection. There is something about growing up together, or especially growing up in the same environment when you were a kid, that just goes beyond anything else. Because in the end, those core values of your life, those principles, are those things that are gonna stick with you forever. And now that I finished my 29-year-old wisdom section of the video, I want to just take a song to describe the sensation of being in your 20s. It's a song from 2016, I believe. I was 26 when this song came out, and it just resonated with me so well at that time. And I've always thought, when I'm gonna turn 30, this is gonna be the song. And I didn't know I would have started a YouTube channel or anything, but I knew that this song would have come out again when I was really at the end of my 20s. It's titled La fine dei vent'anni. It's an Italian song by an Italian songwriter and singer. The lyrics of this song are so powerful, and you're gonna understand why in a second. The song is titled La fine dei vent'anni, which means the end of the 20s. I'm gonna read parts of the song in the original language now and then translate them in English. The first two lines of the song are already very relatable for me. It says, "C'è un sole perfetto, ma lei vuole la luna," which means there is a perfect sun, but she wants the moon. I guess anyone can interpret this however he wants. I like the fact that the person mentioned is a she, because I see here my mom, for example. I love my mom and she loves me, but she's one of those parents who is never completely satisfied about her kid. So when I chose to study philosophy in university, she would have liked me to become a doctor. And when I graduated from my master, instead of being content of me graduating with the maximum of grades, she was pissed because I chose to go out of university and not become a professor. And now that I'm successfully running my own YouTube channel, she would like me to be a journalist for national television. But I know that she just wants the best for me. It's just that we have different concepts of what's the best for me. And this goes back to what I told you about communication with your parents. Di alzarmi non ho voglia, oggi non combatto con nessuno. A volte è solo questione di fortuna, ma per traslocare 2 volte in un mese c'è bisogno di tranquillità. I don't want to get up. Today I don't fight against anyone. Sometimes it's just a matter of luck. But to move twice in a month, you need tranquility. And now it comes a small part that is the most powerful of the whole song for me. These 5 lines are for me the perfect description of what it means to be in your late 20s. La fine dei 20 è un po' come essere in ritardo. Non devi sbagliare strada, non farti del male e trovare parcheggio. The end of the 20s is a bit like being late. Don't take the wrong turn, don't hurt yourself, and find parking. So this songwriter is from Tuscany, but he lives in Rome. And Rome is a very car-centric city, and it's very congested as well. One of the features of the citizens of Rome is that they are constantly late for any appointment. He's just comparing the moment that is very common to any person who lives in Rome of running around the city with your car, running late for an appointment and trying to find parking, which is one of the most difficult things to do in Rome, with being in your late 20s. And he says the end of 20s is like being late. And I completely agree with this. I repeat, I was 26 when this song came out, and I literally felt the same exact thing that these words describe. You're late, so what you need to do is to run as fast as you can, but if you take the wrong turn, you're fucked. So you need to not take the wrong turn, while also managing to not hurt yourself. And especially once you finally arrive there, find parking. I'll go on with the most painful part of the song. Amico mio, sono anni che ti dico andiamo via, ma abbiamo sempre qualcuno da salvare o da baciare. My friend, I've been telling you for years, let's go away. But we always have someone to rescue or to kiss. Also very, very relatable for me. This time I'm not gonna go into details because it's too personal, but he's talking to his friend and saying, I've been telling you to go away from here, which is a something that who grew up in the countryside really understands very well, or in the suburbs. But then he continues and he lets us understand that they never went away really, because they had someone to rescue or to kiss. And I surely found myself in this situation when you feel you really want to go away to start your own path, to do the things you really like to do in life, but you feel there is something that, like an anchor, that is keeping you in this place. Someone to rescue, someone who needs your help, or someone who you are in a relationship with. I find myself in both of these situations, and I decided to let one side win, the side of what I want to do with my life. I'm the one who decided that people who you want to rescue, if they don't want to rescue, you should just let them go and not sacrifice your own life for them, because if they don't want to be helped, your help is not going to make any difference. And the sentimental relationship I was in, I was not happy. So luckily I was able to get out of that one. And I was able to do so a second time during my 20s as well. But unfortunately, I know some very, very dear people to me who have made the opposite decision. They decided to stay, to give up their dreams in order to rescue someone or to keep an old relationship going. Of course, I'm narrating this based on my personal perspective. Okay, I will just go on with the last part of the song. Ho visto troppa gente in questi 7 anni. Per scegliere qualcuno ci ho messo 10 secondi. Le giornate erano piene di storie assurde e di silenzi. Ora non ho tempo di pensare a cosa è cambiato. Translation. I've seen too many people in these 7 years. To choose someone, I took 10 seconds. The days were full of crazy stories and silences. Now I don't have time to think about what's changed. This is another good description of what it means to move from your early 20s to your late 20s, I would say. And in particular, you can see that we can divide this piece in 2 parts. And the first lines describe the situation in your early 20s when you have plenty of time, you meet so many people, you hear so many crazy stories, and you have so many silences as well, which mean having a lot of time for yourself, a lot of time to think, a lot of time to reflect. And then in the last lines of these 2 group of lines, you have description of life in your late 20s, which is what I can relate now to. And it's a situation where you start building something, you start not having time, you start being constantly in a rush to make decisions, you cannot think about them for more than 10 seconds. And especially the last 2 lines, I think, are very meaningful. Now I don't have time to think about what has changed. For me personally, it's such a sad conclusion of this situation, because when you approach your 30s, you start to be so much in a rush that you don't even have time anymore to look back and understand in what situation you are. For copyright reasons, I couldn't play the song in this video, obviously, but I'll leave you the link in the description. Hopefully you will go and listen to it, because I think it's a very beautiful song, and now that you know the lyrics, hopefully it's gonna be even more powerful for you. Lastly, I want to address everyone who was born in April. I want to wish them happy birthday. And to everyone in their 20s who is anxious or fearful or uncertain, unstable, don't worry. That's the normal condition for someone who is your age. It's just a phase, and I encourage you to try to enjoy this phase as much as you can, because one day you're gonna miss it. Goodbye, everyone.